Welcome to the Resolute Warrior Podcast by Resolute Men Ministries, where we equip men to activate a life of authentic character. A resolute warrior is purposefully minded, steadfast in character, a man who walks in humility with an unshakable faith. We interview men who are having an impact in the Christian arena, as well as discussing topics related to men from a biblical perspective. It's about real life with real challenges with real men. And now to today's podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And again, you know, I just know that, plus when you're young like that, man, you know, I mean, you're right. You want something where you can say, hey, you know, I want to achieve something, man. I want to achieve something bigger than myself. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not sure where it's going to take me, man, but I'm going for it, right? A lot of times at that age too, and even in even latter part of life, you get into things you really don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? But I can tell, I've done a little research with your ministry, and this is where I want to get into a little bit, how the Marine Corps has impacted you and led you to do, to start True North Ministries, because I can kind of see some transferable skills I could see, if that makes any sense, that's used in that ministry. And so I like to really share about how it all started and what's the idea behind True North Ministries.
Sure. So I think True North Ministries and ManCamp, I really can't talk about one without talking about the other. So
Sure.
We'll just start with ManCamp real quick here. As I was attending college at Concordia University and attending church at essentially what was a mega church, at the church, I had the small groups pastor that was pouring into me because my wife and I had become small group leaders. And so we're facilitating group discussion with the small group in our home. And so he ended up inviting me into a discipleship program that he was going to be hosting for 12 weeks. And I went ahead and jumped on that. I was doing everything I could at this point to become a better man, to learn more about God, to learn how to answer questions, learn how to disciple, learn how to preach, teach, whatever. I just knew that God had called me, and I knew that he was working in my life, and I knew that I was answering that call. I didn't know what that looked like at the time. And so I jumped into Concordia University as well to finish out my degree, which had already changed from pastoral ministry, and then going into Concordia, it changed to the Director of Christian Education program. Mm-hmm. And what I found out while I was kind of going through that program is that program was more geared toward the Lutheran Church, and that most of the graduates in that program were being placed in Lutheran churches, and beyond that, not just in Lutheran churches, but more in a youth role, like a youth leadership role. And so as I started thinking through this, pardon me, I need to adjust my chair. It was way too close.
No worries, man.
So what I ended up doing was getting with one of my instructors that I really trusted and I really admired and appreciated, Dr. Green. Shout out to Dr. Green, Concordia University, super awesome guy. And just kind of had him help me figure out if I'm going to change programs, how do I do this most effectively and efficiently so I'm not losing too many credits? And then so that it applies to my life and the direction I'm headed. And what we came up with was I would study communications, because everybody needs to know how to communicate and sell themselves or whatever it is that they're doing in life, right? And we need to have that intellectual, the intellectual capacity to be able to interact with other people. And then the biblical studies. So I continued doing my biblical studies because I needed a solid foundation as far as scripture and faith. And then psychology. My third, it was a multidisciplinary degree, which included those three components: communication, religious education, and psychology. And so the psychology component came in when I started realizing, okay, like, I think the direction I'm going to head is probably helping people in some way at some point to deal with life in general, whether that's life change, whether that's life strategy, whether that's matters of faith and growing their faith. I just knew that it would require a degree of psychological studies to be able to know what's going on in the minds and hearts of people. And so all the while I was studying at Concordia University, attending the church, I started seeing men at church, right, who were the perfect mentors. And I started seeing young men in this Christian education program that were in need of mentors. What I seen on both ends was that there were men who still needed to be poured into.
Oh, yeah.
One way or another. They needed challenged, they needed encouraged, and they needed equipping. And for me, there came a point in time when I said, man, I really would love to attend some men's events with a group of men that I can get closer to, that I can pour into. They could pour into me. We could do life together. Well, one thing that bothered me was I was going to essentially a mega church, and every year they would host a women's retreat, but they wouldn't host a men's retreat. I was like, okay, there's a deficit here. There's a problem. And churches will even preach this, right? Like pastors and leaders of churches will preach this one thing. And that is that if the man is in church, the family is sure to come. The chance of the family coming and being involved and experiencing true spiritual change, you know, the odds of that increases. Whereas if it's just the mother, and nothing wrong with mothers, right? Nothing wrong with women. But as John Eldredge said, you know, when it comes to the church, men are bored and women are tired. Well, that's because women are doing all the doggone work, and that's because men have become passive.
Right.
So why do churches not pour into men more? Well, I was like, I'm going to fix this. And so my wife and I had just bought 12 acres out in Florence, Texas. And, you know, when we bought that, I told God, I said, let us know what you want us to use this for, because it was just a raw piece of land. And, you know, the original plan was to build on it, build our home. But then I also had other ideas that I felt like maybe God was giving me, like a wedding venue of some sort, just a beautiful piece of property. But this came along, this opportunity. I said, I'm going to host an event where guys just come out. I'll have someone bring a guitar. We'll do campfire, praise and worship. I'll cook barbecue. You know, I'll barbecue some food for everyone, or some meat, and we'll do some beans, and we'll eat, and we'll just hang out, share testimonies, sing campfire, praise and worship songs. And so the first one that I did, about 15 guys, 12 to 15 guys, I think. I'd have to look back at the pictures to count because there was no official registration on it. But then the second one was a year later. So that was 2015, the end of 2015 that we did that. And I was like, all right, I think this can be something. I think men are hungry for this, regardless of age. And so I think I should try this again. At that point, I had become good friends with another guy that started helping me. And basically we met one morning. We would meet, I forget which day of the week it was, but anyway, we'd meet at Torchy's Tacos. And there was a group of guys that would meet, we'd eat breakfast, we'd do a Bible study together. Well, one morning it was just this guy and myself that showed up. And we're like, this is interesting. You know, all right, Lord, what's this all about? And so as a result of that, you know, we're like, all right, well, let's just chit chat and get to know each other better, because we hadn't had a chance to really get to know each other outside of just studying scripture for, you know, however many meetings we had at that point. And I was like, hey man, like, how would you feel about, because I through that meeting, I learned that he enjoyed camping and that he was always hosting crawfish boils and stuff at his house. And I was like, how would you feel about helping me host my next event? And so I invited him into that, and he was like, heck yeah, let's do it. And so between the two of us, I think we had like 32 guys show up to the next one.
That's awesome.
And then, you know, the rest is history. We continued on. We had about 60 at the next one, then 80. And we've had, I think, up to 100 now guys that attend these events. And so that's the ManCamp, right? I just seen a deficit. And over time, it has morphed into more than just a campfire and an acoustic guitar and barbecue. We've become much more structured. We now have guest speakers come out. We have all the men who register are put on teams and they compete in different competitions. We do small group breakouts so that they can do a deep dive on the topic that was discussed during the message. We even do a praise and worship night where we'll have someone come in and actually set up and do live praise and worship. And then we do a ceremony. We'll do like a ceremony of sorts. I can't give away all of our secrets, but we do quite a bit of cool stuff. We even have an obstacle course that we've been adding to every event. It seems like we've added something the last few events. We have a gun range. We have 2 gun ranges now. I'm sorry, 3. We have 2 that we use for pistol, and then we have 1 that we use for long range shooting. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on out there, man. It's just really turned into something that I believe has blessed men. I know marriages have been restored. Men have come out and they've basically worked through their addictions. And this last event, we had a young man come out and he brought drugs with him, fully intending to use them. He said, "Hey, I brought these and I feel like, I need y'all's help and I would like to burn this." And so everybody just supported him in that, burned his meth and his pipe and everything, crushed it. And so
awesome, man.
All kinds of stuff that goes on. I believe these events truly do reach men's heart in a different way than other events are doing. And it's not just one of these events where you go and you hear a bunch of speakers speak and then you go back to your dorm. Nothing wrong with those because I enjoy those. But this is a lot more intense. There's a lot more involved, and it really does hit at the heart of the warrior that is within a man, but also the intellectual side of a man, the spiritual side of a man.
Right.
And we do a lot of looking in the mirror. We really encourage guys to come out there and try to figure out what it is in life that is holding them back. And a lot of times it's us, right?
Yeah, we get our own way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of times we want to blame other things, but the reality is it's us. Because there's really not much that can hold us back other than ourselves. So we help guys identify those integrity gaps and help them kind of tap into a different kind of identity and take responsibility. And that's what ManCamp is about. And so anyway, 2015, ManCamp. 2016, I decided to form the nonprofit organization, which originally I thought was going to be multiple ministries, right? That's why I called it True North Ministries. And I was thinking it was going to be men's, women's, marriage. But soon I found out I felt like God was really calling me specifically to men. And he gave me the manpower to host men's events. He gave me the testimony from my past and then everything that I've worked through to speak into men's lives. And so I realized that it's probably not going to be a smorgasbord of ministries. It's just going to be me pouring into men. And so it's still called True North Ministries. That's the umbrella. That's the 501c, the nonprofit. And then we host the events. That's basically what we do. I think at some point we'll probably create some courses that will be based on all of the themes that we've had from each event. And we'll probably house those on our website. Cool. But right now it's just it's just ManCamp for the most part.
That's amazing, man. You mentioned something earlier, and there's 2 key components that guys need. We need the high challenge and high equipping. I think the problem is nothing wrong with men's events, because I could share my experiences with you. I shared a little bit earlier with you, but there's nothing wrong with them. It's great to hear somebody speaking, but men need to be challenged along the way, and that's what they desire for too. And the problem is I think, just having the men's breakfast once a year in the church is not going to cut it anymore. It's not going to cut it. And quite frankly, men need a lot more than that. And they're desperately seeking more than that. Yeah. And what I've come to find out, Paul, is when you take the men, as you're doing, away from the church building structure and you get them out in the open, like you're doing now, it allows them to be more vulnerable, allows them to be real, allows them to be authentic, to where you can then be intentional about building that relationship with the guy. So now that you have these events, what is the follow-up from the event? Do you guys have some type of follow-up? I know you're talking about putting some courses together, but is there anything you guys are doing in the meantime that's helping give the men some form of structure, so you're just not having this event, but you're making sure that you're staying connected some sort of way?
Sure. Yeah. So it's a great question. That's something we've been working on as well. As you mentioned earlier, that is the hard part of running an event or an organization of this nature, is the follow-up and making sure that we follow up or that men stay connected. And so that is one thing that we have noticed over the last few years, that we said, okay, what do we do about this? We know this is an issue. We know this is an area that we need to strengthen. So what can we do? And so there's a few things I feel like we've done, and we're still working on perfecting those. We're working on honing those. One is the private Facebook group, which still needs work. We still need more people in there. We still need good conversations going on in there. The other will be, or is, the mastermind group that we host once a week. So like I said, for the last several weeks, we've been going through the biblical manhood series together. So every Tuesday night we have a phone call on Zoom, and we have a study. We watch a video and we write down what we feel, God is telling us through that. And then we share that with each other. Which there's still more that I would like to see done, even with our mastermind group. I would like to see us start creating plans and setting objectives, and then checking in on each other with those. So there's always room for improvement, but that would be the big thing right now, is men have the opportunity to become a part of the private group on Facebook and always interact there, or the ManCamp alumni group as well. But also the mastermind call is where the money is right now. That's probably the biggest thing we have going for us as far as interaction. Now, we do try to do touch points as well. Like we just, this last Saturday, we just hosted a chili cook-off here at my house that was open to all attendees from the last event. And that was just for us to be able to touch base with them. They brought their wives, so we got to meet, their spouses. And we got to eat some good chili. So that was another way. And so we're constantly trying to create touch points. We'll probably also do some sort of New Year's Eve gathering. So starting January, we'll also be doing tactical days. So I did not intend for it to happen the way that it's happened, but it seems like the majority of my team has ended up being veterans.
It's awesome.
And so we have a number of veterans on the team, a number of guys who are very proficient with firearms, and they know a ton of stuff as far as self-defense and tactical type situations. And so one thing that we're going to start doing is a tactical event once a month. We have a ton of people walking around with these concealed license, and they never get trigger time. Matter of fact, if they get trigger time and it's the wrong time for them, if something goes down and heaven forbid they have to pull their firearm on someone, who knows if it's even going to be in a safe manner, if they're going to be able to properly utilize it. I just feel like there's a ton of people walking around with concealed carry license that need trigger time, they need training. And so I figure the one way that we can help make that better is to hold tactical training days. And so it'll be a mix of tactical training and different scenarios, but it'll also be competition to kind of make it fun. So it's not just classroom, it's also fun. Somebody will probably win a big prize at the end of it. So that'll be something that we start doing monthly in January.
That's good, man. That sounds pretty exciting. So it sounds like you're well on your way, trying to build that accountability piece for guys and to build those relationships. within each other, you know, to have that fellowship and that discipleship. So I want to talk about the area of accountability a little bit. It's so important and critical in a man's life, but what are your thoughts? What have you experienced? Why men try to not make this a priority in their lives? Why do they seem to avoid this area of accountability?
Mm-hmm. I think we avoid accountability because growth is found out of our comfort zone.
Mm.
And as men, unfortunately, we have this capacity to easily fall into a comfort zone. And we want life to be comfortable. And rightfully so, I guess, right? Like, I mean, having a comfortable life is a good thing, right? But
Right.
it can also be to our detriment. It's a double-edged sword. It's like, you know, when life is comfortable, life is peaceful oftentimes. And we all enjoy peace. And I know I certainly enjoy peace. And so distinguishing the difference, though, like, just because life is not comfortable right now doesn't mean I cannot be at peace. And so I think that, first of all, I would like to say that accountability for me, I believe that having other people enlisted as a source of accountability is a good thing. But I also believe that personal accountability is where it starts. I believe that if we cannot hold if we don't have the mindset that we want to hold ourselves accountable first, we're going to BS anybody else that we enlist in our corner.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that's the bottom line. Because if I can lie to myself, and if I can excuse myself and let myself slip and do this or do that are not healthy for me, I can BS anybody else as well.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm willing to lie to myself and I'm not willing to follow through with what I say what I've committed to, or the man that I've committed to be, well, then no one else can hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to skirt it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lie to them first and foremost, and I'm going to excuse my lies to them, saying it's okay. It's just a little white lie. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to continue to do that until the person holding me accountable eventually just goes away. Mm-hmm. Eventually they stop.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've done that. I know how the game works. And that's easy, right? Because nobody's feelings are hurt. Nothing's said. We just let it roll off our back.
Yeah.
So I believe that accountability starts with ourselves. From there, personal accountability then starts to turn into, okay, I'm going to enlist someone in my corner because I'm serious about this. Like, I truly do want change in my life. But if I'm not willing to commit to that first for myself, if I haven't resolved to doing everything that I can do, accountability outside of me is worthless in my mind. It helps to have people there to remind us, but eventually we just become numb to it. And so I feel like I'm kind of going in circles now, but
that's good.
I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it's good. I kind of know where you're going. You know, my first one to say is, this came to my mind, a half truth is a whole lie. You know what I mean? So, yes. You know what I mean? So, but I understand about the personal accountability within yourself and within God. You know what I mean? Having that relationship in check first. And the thing is about the accountability with other men, we have to be careful. We have to build these relationships over time. And I've had accountability partners in my life in the past, and then I had this gap. Now I'm just starting to get another guy into my life. Of course, I meet with other guys on Saturday mornings through Zoom. We have studies and stuff like that. But I think the important thing, what I'm hearing from you is, yes, it's important to have that man that you can be transparent with. But first, if I'm hearing you right, is you need to be transparent with yourself. So that way, when you go into that relationship, you're going to be as open and honest as you possibly can. So you're not wasting his time or your time. And that's the the essence of true accountability. And that's what we need in our lives as men. So, but in order to get there in your life, in my life, there has to be men who have influenced us with their walk with Christ. And I'm just curious, do you have a man or a group of men that have been a huge influence in your walk with Christ?
I thought about this one too. I cannot sit here and say that there has been any one man that has had a major influence in my life. Had there been, I believe that it wouldn't have taken me 35 years to figure life out. Had there been a man there, but or at least consistently, right? Now there are a few men that I can think of, some directly, some indirectly, who have influenced my life. Like I said, the small groups pastor from Hill Country Bible Church, he took the time to disciple me for 12 weeks. Then he invited me into an internship role with the church and the small groups ministry. So certainly Kip Nanning is his name. He has had an influence on my life in that manner. Another guy that was, he was in the Marine Corps as well. I worked with him at the church in the small groups ministry. His name is Chuck Barber. Just super, super wise man, super patient, super gracious and forgiving, and just always full of words of wisdom, right? And I don't want to say words of encouragement, but he gave words of wisdom in a manner that were encouraging.
That's good.
And so that was good. My father-in-law has, in the last 6 years, has played a very significant role in my life. I really didn't have a father, let's say a wholesome father figure growing up. And so life was tough as a child, but I tell you what, if anybody who's been a father to me through the years in a manner that is edifying and uplifting intellectually, spiritually, you name it, it's my father-in-law, Barney Davis. He has, he's poured into me. He's been there. He's helped us in times of need. He's always believed in me. He's always encouraged me. He's given me, there's moments when he's challenged me and it doesn't even feel like a challenge, just because he's so wise and knows how to.
That's awesome, man.
Knows how to hold on a conversation that is just, man, it just takes you to a whole nother level. So, and then indirectly, I would say just different people I listened to through the years, whether it be podcasts or sermons. Believe it or not, so there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about some I don't know, I think it's in 1st or 2nd Corinthians, but basically talks about there are some people who preach and teach out of selfish gain. And then there are those who don't do it for selfish gain. But then on the end of this scripture, it says, but what does it matter? Because God uses both. And so I like to tell this story because there was a time in my life when I truly feel like I feel like I was only hanging on by a thread in my faith. The one way that happened was I was listening to a podcast and I'd listen to these sermons, and it's sermons of a pastor that many, many people love, but many, many people also don't. And they believe that he's all about prosperity gospel. And you probably know who it is already.
I think I know who you're talking about, bro.
And so, and I understand where people are coming from with some of his stuff, but I tell you what, at a point in my life when I was very, very low, I feel like listening to his sermons kept me in there. It kept me, at least it kept God at the forefront of my mind. If not in my heart fully, at least in my mind, it kept God there. And those little nuggets from time to time, when I would try to apply them to my life, I feel like it truly, it made a difference, And so I don't want to sit here and say that Joel Osteen played a huge role in my development, but listen to those podcasts. I tell you what, it sure kept me in the game sometimes. So, just different pastors like that over the years that I've listened to as well.
Yeah.
I think God has just used like an array of different ways to to keep me in there, right? He has pursued me in so many different ways.
That's awesome. Well, God can use all things to work for the good to those in Christ Jesus. And that's what I'm hearing, what you're sharing there. No matter what, he can always lead it back to him. And I want to kind of shift gears a little bit as we get ready to close here in a little bit. But I'd like to hear a little bit about, I know you're doing podcasting. I hear that now, so I've been listening to some of your episodes. I mean, good. So how did that all come about? And what's your hope and your purpose that you hope men can gain through this podcasting? And how is it just stepping into that new world of ministry?
Sure. Yeah. So let's see. I'm trying to remember. I guess I really got in when I really started taking in podcasts was probably 2017. I was about to graduate from Concordia, and I started realizing, okay, like I'm pretty positive men's focus is the way I'm going to go. I was doing some men's coaching and continuing to do ManCamp and True North. That's the way I'd like to go. And so I started saying, all right, if I'm going to do this, I need to look at what other people are doing or organizations are doing that are also pouring into men.
Yeah.
And so I found this one podcast called Order of Man. I don't know if you heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of them guys.
Okay, yeah. So it's Ryan Mickler over at Order of Man. And I just started listening to his stuff, man. And I tell you what, he has a great podcast. Like that dude is he's doing some good things. He's making a huge impact, And so anyway, I started studying him. I started studying some other organizations and really just trying to get a feel for, okay, if I'm going to do this, how do I do this?
Right.
How do I make this really work? And so I've taken little pieces from different organizations and kind of, centralized them in the True North organization.
Oh yeah, believe me.
And I'm trying to think of what your original question was now.
Yeah, just asking how podcasting started for you.
Yeah, podcasting. Yeah, and so I don't know. There was just something that was appealing about it to me. I felt like, okay, like if I can get out and share my story with the world, and if I can help other men share their story with the world, and if we can broadcast this in a manner that multiplies our reach, why not? Why not let it go out through the airwaves? And the podcasting platform has become so popular. I mean, there's so many different podcasts now, and so you're like I'm just a small fish in a big pond. That's all I am. But what I like about it is everyone has equal opportunity. I have an equal opportunity to make this podcast a podcast that people really are attracted to, but not just attracted to, but a podcast that produces information, or at least the hope and encouragement that is needed for men to start to make small incremental changes in their life. And for me, that's what it was all about. Like, I know some people have those big God moments and stories where it's like, hey, this one thing happened and everything in my life changed. Everything. Yeah. But for me, it didn't happen that way. It was small and it was incremental. So the more people that I can have come onto the show and share their story of life change and transformation and what they're doing now, how they got where they are, the more nuggets of hope I can leave out there for other men to stay on the path of changing their life. And so that's, for me, that's what it's all about. I want to get the word out there. So this is one way that we can do it. And it can kind of multiply your efforts if you have a good following. And so I'm learning the process. And I enjoy interviewing people. I enjoy hearing stories, and I enjoy learning from these men that I'm talking to. Like, I don't know it all. Like, I'm learning a ton of stuff, and I am on the path to becoming a better man myself. And that's what it's all about, right? Like, the moment we stop growing is the moment that we're just we render ourselves useless. And so we're either, what do they say? you're either growing or you're dying. Well, we're all dying anyway, but why not continue to try to get better while we're dying? You know, we're on that path to death. We're all going to face death at some point. So I just choose to continue to grow and then try to offer that same opportunity to other men. And the more discussions I can have with men like yourself, who have a different perspective on life, who have a different story in life, who have been through different things in life, the more I get to learn. And some of it, you know, is going to help me avoid pitfalls in the future. Some of it is just a reminder of the stuff that I want to avoid. Other is, you know, all right, how can I incorporate these components or these steps or these processes into my life to make it better, whether it's as a husband, a father, whether it's as a friend, whether it's as a, you know, a small business owner or entrepreneur. I need to continue to learn and grow. And the more conversations I have, the better man I'm going to become.
No, that's good, man. I mean, that's like for me, that's how it started with me. I just did a lot of research, listening to different podcasts, and I could give you a whole list, man, after we're done this. But one of them, if you haven't checked out, is called Men in the Arena. Jim Ramos, he's out of Oregon.
Okay.
I think they're the second biggest men's podcast out there. It's phenomenal. So, but that's what I do too, brother. I just interview guys, get to learn their story and get it out there as much as we can help men. I figure if we can just reach one guy and change his life, then, you know, God's done his work through me. You know what I mean? So you and I are just being obedient to the call, man. So that's awesome. Hey, listen, I want to just kind of get ready to wrap this up here, but, you know, each of us guys, you know, there's guys out there, you know, we're all defining a legacy right now. You know what I mean? And some of them are good, some of them are bad. But what would you say to the guy right now who may be listening, he feels like they're falling behind as being the man of God that he was created to be and to live that life that God has called him to live? What would you say to that guy to help him begin to reshape his legacy?
Yeah, I would say that I feel ill-equipped and unworthy every day. I feel like an imposter every day. And that's because God's called me to something bigger than I can fathom, something bigger than I can imagine. And so it's my job to step out in faith, regardless of how small that faith is at the moment. The moment that I step out is the moment he begins to show his strength and his power through me. And the reality is, even though I feel unworthy and ill-equipped, I'm not.
Yeah.
He has called us worthy. He has called us sons, right? I mean, we're heirs to the throne. So I would just say, like, it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you haven't done. It's not too late to get going, right? It's not too late to live the life that sets the example you want to set, whether it's for your family, whether it's for your friends, whether it's for your community. It's never too late. But the reason why most people that miss it is because they're stuck up here.
Yeah.
And they never step out. They never take that step. And all you got to do is take the first step and then the next step, right?
That's right.
And eventually the revelation comes. Revelation comes. I don't know. I can't say just because we take the first step that we immediately know the path. It hasn't happened that way for me.
No.
I just keep stepping because I've vowed to be a better man than I used to be. And I know it requires me to do different things than I used to do.
Yeah.
And I don't always know what that looks like because that's future tense, but I know what the past looks like. And anything future tense that could happen as a result of me doing honorable, wholesome things and stepping out is way better than anything I've experienced or done in the past. And there again, that goes all the way back to living a life of service to others rather than service to self. Because I used to serve myself And now I would like to think, and I'm not perfect at it, but that I live a life to serve others, to speak life and breathe life into others. It's the whole idea of the valley of dry bones in Ezekiel, right?
That's right.
God is telling him, he's telling him what to say to the bones, and these bones are rising up all the way to the point where God breathes life into them. And that's what he does through us. And so just imagine if you let go of what you think and feel in the current moment, because our feelings are not always reality. If you let go of that and you actually step into what God has, think of the impact that you can make in the world around you. And that turns into legacy, right?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well said, well said. And Paul, I really enjoyed this interview, man. I mean, we could go on and on, but I want to respect your time. But I do want to give you an opportunity as we get ready to close to share more about how guys can connect with you through ManCamp, through True North Ministries, how to get access to the resources, how to get involved and being part of these camps, to be part of whatever events and your Zoom studies, whatever it may be. How can guys connect to you?
Sure. Yeah. So let's see. Let's start with the website. The website is where everything is housed. So you can find all the information on the website for ManCamp, for becoming partners, or for becoming a part of the mastermind group as well. All that can be found on the website, which is true-north-ministries.com. As far as the Facebook group is True North Man. And then you just click on the group and join the True North Man private group. It helps if you answer all the questions, because that gives us pertinent information that helps us, make the group better. So anyway, yeah, True North Man on Facebook, and then Instagram is True North Man for the ministry, and then we also have ManCamp USA, which is just it's just for ManCamp, right? But I try to keep as many things posted on there as I can. But anyway, and as far as the mastermind group, that's on the website. As far as myself reaching out to me, it's Paul at true-north-ministries.com. And then Paul Beam on Facebook and Paul Beam 81 on Instagram. That's a lot, I know.
No, man, that's good.
I'm all over it. It's not hard to find me. Matter of fact, you can probably find my phone number on there if you need it.
Hey, man, no, it's good. It's good to have all these different avenues, especially the way social media is starting to shift and change. People are trying to find different outlets to connect now. So no, man, this is good. And, I appreciate all you're doing, man. It's exciting what you're doing. I want to encourage you to keep up the good work. It's one of these things that, that we tend to overlook is the investment into a man's life, because I'm a big believer that if you can invest in a man, you invest in the family. Change the man, change the family. And that's what we're here to do, brother. And so, Paul, I just want to thank you again, man, for being part of the Resolute Warrior podcast today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Rob. Appreciate it.
You got it. Take care and God bless.
You can connect with Resolute Men on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Men, stay focused and determined. Fight the good fight. Live for something bigger than yourself. And be a resolute warrior.